Hi. Good morning, and welcome back to Berg Mountain Optional University's Mathematics 1777, a course on #calculations for tomorrow, tools in Mathematics 6. We discussed numbers and signs last week in the preface and introduction, respectively. Here in Chapter 1 we cover the man-made concept of circles, which nothing is naturally two-dimensionally round, in cones, or spheres, but circular. So won't you come along with us?
Hey, Chapter 1, Alpha, I. What ought be known of circles? What is a circle but a hole, or a hole, as in all where either all of nothing or all of something it is perceived? Seen since the beginning of time, and at least from the far-off sun and moon, timber and stone circles were made by prehistoric man. Raising standing stones in circular patterns was done by Late Neolithic, 6400 BCE, man, which continued to the early Bronze Age as a collective effort. Mostly in northwestern Europe, notably in Great Britain and later in Iron Age southern Scandinavia, culture paved way to tradition as Avebury, Rollright stones, and Henge weren't the first or the last. Initially, architecture was much more about location than anything else, as yesterday's erections, demolished, are replaced by others of today, so we really know not how long this tradition had been before. We perceive circles in other things and subsequently consider them in ourselves. We only knew that our eyeballs were circular before mirrors because we saw them in others. A perfect circle presupposes the knowledge of perfect lines, of which a circle only is around in equidistance from a point. Other things are circular, like the volcano island of Bora Bora's barrier reef. Circle, from Greek translation does to kappa rho kappa omicron, kirkos-circle, and in German kirk translated to English as church, so we'll research further. In Congregationalism all denominations were equal, where of every congregation one leads. Whether the king of burgers, dry cleaning, or bottled water, one governs ethics while another morality. The former deals with whether things are good or bad, while the latter deals with what is written as wrong behavior for society. The president rewards patriotism with the distribution of US dollars for work performed through those domestic who send it to citizens. Those who send it are equally senators, but senators are cones while kings are spheres.
From cave paintings and petroglyphs, man has attempted to reproduce perfect circles to prove the law of man trumps that of nature, or at least lives from check to check from coins provided. The U.S. Senate, established at Federal Hall in New York with from AZ 26 senators and a 14th vote from the President of the Senate, who is as well the Vice President of the United States, to break any tie. Theoretically, at the center of the Senate circle, party lines make the 51st vote one of mere preference. However, what if quarter adding black and white, a topic for another discussion? The production of attempts at perfect circles from resulted in coinage, where their first manufacture was in 600 BCE in Lydia of modern-day Turkey. Authorization of a mint of the 13 United States was while still in rebellion in early 1782, which pressed the fujo cent as early as 1787 in Philadelphia, the then capital of our new nation. In theory, the manufacture of coinage presupposed the understanding of the irrational constant of pi, where from Egyptian papyrus it had been approximated to 256/81 or 3.16049. As early as 1700 BCE, Alexander Rhine's purchase of the papyrus in 1858 was worth a pretty cent, as pi, first to the Western world, was by the Welsh William Jones derived in 1706 as 3.14. This infinite series approaches squaring circles but never does or will, so in the Senate, with all equidistance from its president, votes prove squares won't be found.
No community is any more of a community than any other, nor senator than another, as representing classes 1, 2, or 3 are, now with 100 senators, 33, 33 and 34, respectively. From legendary Uther Pendragon's son King Arthur we consider his Knights of the Round Table, where all were equal, with George I in theory slaying the Pendragon of English Arthurs in 1714. Man seeks equality with others and wars to achieve balance when mis- or underrepresented, where senators sit as citizens representing individually half of wholes tax dollars received from states. From circles radii nobles and knights long ago, and senators now legislate movements considered best by others equal, whereas any who cares for themselves would sow their constituency. As a first understanding of democracy, states from the Connecticut Compromise are equally states. Varying in population, congressmen from Wyoming are 3, while from California 53. Of 33.29 million Americans, but 100 legislate progress of the nation, with 435 congressmen representing each more or less 761,100 citizens.
Democracy, perhaps, has always been as many consider themselves one with others, but centers of circles are two-dimensional, three-dimensional, or all-encompassing. In planes, centers are equal to extremities distinguished two-dimensionally in cones, while all-encompassing are spheres, as with the king. President Washington admitted 3 states where senators became 32 with 16 a tie vote, and the vice president making 17 breaking tie votes, where now each senator is a cent or 1% of the whole. Though divided by political girth, just as much freedom to eat 3 meals a day, work, and go to sleep at night just to wake up, thank the Lord and do it again, is a blessing from those presiding. When one man is further or closer to a source of peace, he is also more or less at peace, but citizens won't sit for anything as those at the bottom try to climb, and those in states of war further charge to battle. The center of perfect circles, where man is peaceful in equality with others, is amongst the king, while in his absence, standing in lieu of him in man conflict with nature, our president presides. Providing a higher standard of living for citizens of the state, not subjects of kingdoms who without free will, providence or manifest destiny remain void of art and emotion, save the kings. The Senate comprises of 2 citizens from each state, initially 26 from 13 colonies as in it is Greeks, numerically 17. As per the 17th Amendment, at the center of the Senate is one pro tempore in lieu of the vice, the Senate's president, whose deciding vote settles ties at balls of spheres.
Patriotism is rewarded with shares as in companies with distribution of dollars and cents, with those who senate equally senators, while planes are citizens, cones senators, and balls or spheres, kings. What ought be known of circles is that those perfect are man-made from the concept of oneness in the mind represented in coinage. The constant known as pi may be irrational but known of by Egyptians at least since 1700 BCE. With cents there is measure, and with percent 100 which is artificial intelligence on circles, cones, and spheres subjects and citizens ought be knowledgeable.
That's all the information we have for you this session on circles. Next Thursday we cover another figment of imagination originated in the minds of men, reproduced as triangles which represent rectangular things which are never quite rectangles at all, just a close ballpark figure of how best we can remember things in the world we see. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you for your time and consideration.